So can I have a quick indication in the chat area that you can hear me, please? Because I will be when I do my lecture, I'm not really checking in the chat area. So we have only 1 hour. Okay. So just pay attention. I'll be rushing through the slides as I have only got 1 hour. So shortly I'll be sharing my screen. So if you can see my screen, okay. So today I'm going to look at the theoretical aspects of corporate governance. Okay, so this is the second part, or rather the second half of the module. As you know, the module is ethics and corporate governance. So we're going to start because already now we're in week 7 already. So we're going to look at the theoretical aspects of corporate governance. So just pay attention. Okay, basically today what we need to know is to understand the concept of governance and to understand the main theories that underline the development of corporate governance, to be aware of the impact of the form of legal system, capital market, and ownership structure on the development of corporate governance. So basically these are what we're going to learn, our objectives, learning objectives. So what can we see in this caricature? This is a caricature. Okay, you see a group of people around a table. One guy is looking out of the window, and another 3 of them are chatting among themselves. And a lady there scribbling, saying, "Why must I be the chair?" And another guy doing something on his own, another guy looking at the handphone, another guy chatting on the handphone. So what do you see? So this is what many companies face. This is the caricature actually. So what is the issue here? What is the issue that you can understand from this cartoon or caricature? Apparently many companies experience problems. So what are the problems that they are facing? First one is lack of direction. They don't seem to have a proper direction. They don't seem to know where they are going. Poor accountability. Who's accountable to who? We don't know because the lines of reporting are not very clear. Lack of respect, as very clearly seen in this slide here. Lack of respect. You see, when the chair is there, the lady, why she saying, "Why must I be the chair?" The others are not paying attention to her. Of course, this is an exaggeration, lah. This is an exaggeration, but this just to give you an idea that lack of respect among the members of the board. Okay, there's a lack of respect, and the other issue is pushing their personal agendas. This unfortunately happens a lot in our country. Okay, I don't think I want to elaborate more on that. Pushing their personal agendas, and last but not least, poor communication. What do we mean by poor communication? Sometimes we don't know what's happening in the company. We read about it from the media, from the social media. That means there's very poor communication. Okay, there's no proper communication. Lines of communication are very weak. Okay, so this is the official definition of governance. If you ask to define governance, what is governance? We hear this term all the time. So what exactly is governance? Governance is the system by which companies are directed and controlled, and accountability is assured. Okay, so I just want to make sure you can all hear me, right? Okay, I'm assuming because I didn't get any feedback. Okay, so governance is the system by which companies are directed and controlled, and accountability is assured. It refers to the responsibilities of the board of directors towards investors and other stakeholders. So what is the key thing? What is the key takeaway from this? The key takeaway here is that we're not just only looking at responsibility of the BOD to investors, but also other stakeholders. Okay, remember, our focus is more wider. We're not just looking at investors, although there's no denying that investors are the primary stakeholders. We don't deny that, but we also have other stakeholders as well. And governance sets the objectives and direction of the company. The governance is the responsibility of the BOD. Is the responsibility of the BOD, Board of Directors. Okay, they set the objectives and direction of the company. So what you need to be very clear right from the first class is it is not the daily management of the enterprise. Daily management of the enterprise is the job of the full-time executives. It is not the responsibility of the BOD. Be very clear. Okay, sometime in the past I have read answers from students which I can see from the answer straight away. They haven't understood this very basic concept. So I want to repeat it one more time, okay? Just to make sure that you have heard and then there's no misunderstanding. So governance is a system by which companies are directed and controlled and accountability is assured. So whose responsibility is governance? Board of Directors, BOD. It's their responsibility. They are the people who set the objectives and direction of the company. It is not the responsibility of the management, day-to-day management of the company. It is the work, day-to-day management of the company is the work of the full-time executives. Okay, so governance is broadly structured by the law. We have so many legal requirements to follow. And therefore, if you want to summarize it in three words, a simple way of the explaining or defining governance. Governance equals to conformance plus performance. Okay, it's a very short and succinct description of governance. Governance equals to conformance plus performance. Okay, so I mean, again, I'm not checking the chat area, so I'm assuming you can hear me. So I'll just keep moving. Okay, if you can't hear me or got any issue, kindly unmute and speak up. We've seen governance. So what's the relationship between governance and performance? Is there a relationship between governance and performance? Most definitely. Okay, I think all the evidence in the literature shows that there's a direct relationship. There is a direct relationship between governance and performance. So if a company wants to enhance their performance, if any company wants to enhance their performance, they need to ensure that they have good governance. Okay, they must have good governance to enhance their performance. So again, coming back to the earlier slide, be very clear. Governance is the responsibility of the board of directors. So what is the role of management? If that is the case, what is the role of management? The management role is to run the business efficiently and effectively. The day-to-day running, operational matters. Operational matters is the responsibility of the management, not the responsibility of the board of directors. So I hope you are very clear about this. Okay. So if that is the case, what is the responsibility of the board of directors? The responsibility of the BOD is to give strategic direction to the company. To give strategic direction to the company as well as to ensure accountability. So these are the two issues which are the responsibility of the BOD. First of all, strategic direction, and the second one is to ensure accountability. Okay, so a critical distinction. Okay, this was an explanation given by a chap called Bob Tricker way back in 1984, but it is still relevant today. Okay, this is still relevant today. A critical distinction between management and governance. So management is about running the business. If management is about running the business, then governance is about seeing that the business is run properly. So you need to be very clear in your mind, because these are very basic ideas in corporate governance. Okay, before we move on to the more complex and difficult areas, this is the first lecture on corporate governance. Make sure you're very clear about this. There's no confusion in your mind. So what is the distinction? Who is responsible for what? What's management's responsibility? What is the BOD's responsibility? You must not be confused about it. Okay, so if management is about running the business, then what is the responsibility of the board of directors? The responsibility of board of directors is governance. So what is governance? Governance is about seeing that the business is run properly. Okay, that's the distinction between management and governance. So management is about running the business. Governance is about seeing that the business is run properly. So now where do we come in? Where do we come in? What do I mean by this question? Where do we come in? All of us, I'm talking mainly about you. The very fact that you have signed up for this course, accounting and Bachelor of Arts, Accounting and Finance. Okay, you are hoping to become one day an accountant. Maybe in practice, maybe in business, what they call as professional accountants in business, PAIB, professional accountant in business. Either you're working for somebody, earning a salary, or working for yourself. Okay, so why are we concerned about governance? How does it concern us? Where do we come in? How do we come into the picture? Accountants and effective governance. So we must remember, accounting involves, first of all, improving decision making. Accounting involves improving decision making, achieving the goals and objectives of the business, and maintaining and strengthening the controls. This is the job of accounting and accountants: improving the decision making, achieving the goals and objectives, and the third one is to maintain and strengthen controls. Now, if there is too much obsession with these three functions for accountants, okay, we are really just focused on the first three only, then there's a risk that accountants spend too much time on conformance and compliance work. In some literature, they refer to this as box ticking exercise. Box ticking exercise. Okay, so there's a risk that we just, as accountant, we're spending too much time on these activities, conformance and compliance. We're not spending enough time on enhancing business performance. Now that is why we are being employed by our majikan, by our employers. What is the value added that you bring to this business? If you're just going to be looking at the aspects of compliance, conformance, or what they refer to as box ticking exercise, it's not to say that you're not doing your job, but there's no value added. So many companies, especially big companies these days, when they want to employ you, future accountants, they will ask you during the interview, how can you add value to our business? What can you bring to the business? And this way you need to sell yourself during the interview. Okay, so accountants focus combines value creation and value protection. So there are two aspects to our job. First aspect is value creation. The second aspect is value protection. We create value. Firstly, we create the value, then we need to ensure that we maintain it. Not just create the value, we must also protect it, meaning we must maintain the value, the added value to the business, so that we are seen as adding value, enhancing the performance of the business, and not just involved in box ticking. Box ticking is the first three just now. Okay, so this is very important. That's our contribution towards effective governance. When I say our, I'm talking about, I'm putting myself in the shoes of accountants. Okay, so there's a risk that we are so focused on the first three, okay, that you tend to overlook or forget. You are being employed not just to do the conformance exercise, the compliance work, but also to enhance the performance of the business, to add value to the business. So there are two aspects. One is value creation. The other one is value protection. Okay. So now we need to look at this concept of an agent. Okay, I'm not talking about insurance agent or property agent or that kind of an agent. Okay, this term agent can be used in many different contexts. So I'm looking at this concept of an agent in corporate governance. So what do we mean by agent in corporate governance? Concept of an agent in corporate governance. The need for governance arises when an agent, it could be an individual, could be a group or an entity, assumes responsibility to look after the rights or interests of other individuals, groups or entities. So basically we have two parties here. In this scenario, we have two parties. One is the agent, the other is the principal. Note the spelling, PAL, not PLE, PAL. So we have two parties here. One is the agent, the other one is the principal. Okay, so let's look at this concept of an agent in corporate governance. What do we mean by this concept of an agent in corporate governance? So as you know, companies, we have both public companies and private companies. In Malaysia, we use the terminology berhad to refer to public company and sendirian berhad to refer to private company. Okay, so it doesn't matter either way. We have agent and principal. So in the case of companies, be it public company or private company, who are the agents? The agents are the directors, BOD, board of directors. Who are they acting on behalf of? They are acting on behalf of the principals. Who are the principals? Principals are the shareholders. It's very basic idea. You need to be very clear. So please, in this first lecture, I hope you are very clear about this. Who is the agent and who is the principal? This is called agency theory. So in the case of companies, we have these two parties. One is the agent, the directors or board of directors. The principals are the shareholders. Okay, so meaning the directors are appointed by the shareholders. They must act in the best interest of the shareholders. This is what we mean by concept of agent. In the case of government, if we extend the same principle, the same idea, so who are the agents? The agents are the wakil rakyat, elected representatives. They are sitting in parliament. In Malaysia, our parliament refers to two, Dewan Rakyat, Dewan Negara. Lower house, upper house. Who voted them there? The citizens. You, me, and the other 30 million people in this country. We voted them to the parliament. They are actually supposed to work for us. So you must be very clear about this concept of an agent. They are in parliament, sitting in parliament, getting their benefits, getting their perks, getting their allowance, getting their gaji, getting their pension. Who voted them? We voted them. We are the principals. In the case of an association, it might be a sporting association, it might be a whatever association. Okay, so the board of the association is the agent acting on behalf of the members who are the principals. So please be very clear about this concept of an agent. Okay, so for companies, okay, since our whole module is looking at companies, this particular model ECG looking at companies. Okay, whether it's a public company or private company, our focus will be on companies. So agents are the BOD. Who are they responsible to? They are responsible to the shareholders, because they were appointed by the shareholders during the AGM. AGM stands for Annual General Meeting. That's how it works in Malaysia and around the world actually. Okay, around the world. The model that we are following is the Anglo-Saxon model, which was developed in the UK. We call it the Anglo-Saxon model. Okay, we have two parties, one agent and one principal. So who are the agents? The agents are the board of directors. They were appointed by the shareholders. The shareholders are the principals. So be very clear about this. Okay, concept of an agent. So I'll briefly stop here and go back to the chat area. In case there are any questions, you can ask me now. If there are any questions, please can ask me now. You need to be clear about this distinction between agent and principal. Who acts for whom? Who appoints whom? Okay. Are there any questions so far before I move on? You can put your question in the chat area, or no, you can unmute and ask me straight away. Okay, I'm guessing that silence means there's no question. Okay. Okay, there's no question, and I'm going to go back to the slides. Okay, so I've already explained this concept of agent. Okay, I hope you're clear about it. This is very, very basic. This is very basic. So please make sure you fully understand this. So okay, we've looked at the concept of an agent. Now let's look at the importance of governance. Why is governance so important? We keep hearing this terminology all the time in the press, in the media. They always talk about governance. But do you really know why it is important? Good governance aims to ensure that organizations are properly run in the best interest of their stakeholders. If you look at the thing in red, in bold and red, we're not talking about the shareholders, we're talking about stakeholders. Stakeholders is more than one. Okay, there are many stakeholders in corporate governance. Shareholders are one of the stakeholders. Okay, are one of the stakeholders, but not the only stakeholder. Not the only stakeholder. So when might organizations not be run in the best interest of their stakeholders? This is supposed to be a question. Okay. In the interest of time, I'll keep moving. Maybe you come back to it at the end. Okay. When might organizations not be run in the best interest of their stakeholders? So this is something for you to think about. That's why we have a question mark at the end. Unfortunately, in most circumstances, by the time we realize that this organization has not been run in the best interest of their stakeholders, oftentimes it is very late already. It's very late. It's when the company is facing problems. Okay, it's when the company is facing problems. So a corporate governance framework provides an appropriate system of checks and balances. So if you have a strong framework, a corporate governance framework, then there will be a system of checks and balances. That's why it's important to have a strong corporate governance frameworks, because it provides an appropriate system of checks and balances. So the next point says that while good governance can bring benefits to companies, it can also temper growth. So basically we need to balance between these two. We are trying to strike a balance between good governance and unmanaged growth. So good governance helps to temper growth, meaning keep a check on it. Keep a check on the growth. Okay. So that's why it is important to have a good governance. It's not just simply you grow and grow and grow. Later on, when you come to problem, that's when you realize we didn't have these structures in place. We didn't have these checks and balances in place. By that time, it's usually very late already. It's usually very late. Now this slide is very important. Okay, so either you can take a picture or you can whatever you want to do. Because I will put these slides up later on in times, but this is very important. So these are the key players in corporate governance. Okay, you need to look at the key players. These are the what we call the pillars of corporate governance. The three pillars, the key players. On the extreme left, you have the external governance. In the middle, you have the internal governance. And on the extreme right, you have the audit. So these are the three pillars, meaning if any one of these pillars is not strong, can you imagine putting up a building with just three pillars and one of those pillars is not strong, is shaking, that's when the building will collapse. It's quite similar in companies. So all of these are very important components of corporate governance, and all must be strong. If any one of these three components is not strong or is weak, this is when we have problems. Okay, on your extreme left, you have external governance. So who are the players in external governance? If you look at the slide, government. Government, why? Why are they a player in corporate governance? Because they set the legal and regulatory environment. They set the legal and regulatory environment. It's the responsibility of the government in any country, not just Malaysia. They need to set the legal and regulatory environment. Other stakeholders. Who are the other stakeholders? Owners. They may set specific requirements. And last but not least, industry and professional bodies. For example, MIA. In the context of Malaysia, MIA. Our professional bodies, MIA, Malaysian Institute of Accountants. They set the accounting standards. They set the industry standards. The best practice. This is the best practice. So if you want to be a company that is governed well, okay, these are the things that you need to pay attention to. So the first aspect is external governance. Okay, so this is the one of the important players in corporate governance, external governance. Made up of governments, made up of stakeholders, made up of industry professional bodies. And they set the framework. You can see the arrow here. Okay, they set the framework. They set the framework or the environment. So the framework and environment is strong. So the second component is the internal governance. We have external governance, we have internal governance. So who are the players in internal governance? The owners or the members? Basically the shareholders. Okay, the owners of the company are the shareholders. So be very clear. The owners of the company are the shareholders. So look at the flow of the arrow, up and down. So you understand how it works. Okay, internal governance, the members or shareholders appoint the board members. They will appoint the board members during the AGM, annual general meeting. And then the board will appoint the CEO. And the CEO will appoint the senior management. So that's how it works. The flow works down from here to here. Shareholders, they are the owners of the company. And they will appoint the BOD, board members. They will appoint during the AGM, annual general meeting. And then the BOD, I just explained earlier before, I hope you paid attention. BOD is responsible for governance. BOD is not responsible for day-to-day management and running of the company. Be very, 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 very clear. Whose responsibility is it? It's a management responsibility. And management is led by the CEO, Chief Executive Officer. So that's how the process works, from top to down. Okay, this is how the system works, internal governance. And then from here going up again. So the management led by the CEO has to report and is accountable to the BOD. So if you look at this diagram here, there is no direct relationship between the management and the shareholders. These people don't report to these people. So you need to understand this diagram very clearly. Shareholders appoint the boards during the AGM. Okay, and they review their performance during the next AGM. Next AGM, they will review their performance. And then the boards will appoint the management, the senior management led by the CEO. Boards will appoint them. And then in turn, these people report back. They report back to the BOD. Okay, these people have no direct relationship with these people. They report to the BOD. And then the BOD will report to the shareholders during the AGM. That's why the AGM is very important. They have it once a year. That's why it's called annual general meeting, because it's held once a year, AGM. Okay, so this is the internal governance. So pay attention to the arrow. The arrow goes top down and then bottom up again. So be clear, top down, bottom up. And these are the two pillars: external governance, internal governance. Last but not least, the third pillar, also very important, is external auditor. External auditor. So again, look at the flow of the direction of flow of the arrow. So they are appointed, the appointment is confirmed by the shareholders during the AGM. The board will recommend during the AGM. Board will recommend. They don't appoint, they recommend. Who appoints them? Who confirms them is the shareholders. So you can see they confirm and they appoint them. They confirm and they appoint them, and they in turn report back to them by way of their audit report. So when they present the audit report, it's actually meant for the shareholders. But unfortunately, shareholders is a very broad church. Some are well educated, some are wealthy people, but they're not well educated. So you give them the report, they look at it, they don't really understand. That's where you come in as a professional accountant to give them advice, to add value. I just spoke just now. Yeah, our job is not just about compliance work, conformance work. You spend too much time on that, you're not adding value. Nowadays, people are looking for you. Let's say they want to employ you. During an interview, they will ask you, okay, how can you add value to my business, to my company? If just a matter of box ticking exercise, I now got so much of software around, I can just buy the software. Why must I employ you? So you need to think about this question to yourself. So that when it comes to interview time, you know how to answer. Okay, so I just want to make it clear. It's not just a matter of box ticking anymore, because a lot of this mundane routine work nowadays, because of development of artificial intelligence, I think you've heard this word AI and fintech and all this kind of stuff. If we're not careful, not now lah, but in the coming future, probably we might become redundant. So you need to be mindful lah. Since you're young people, you're going to enter the job market, okay? So you need to add value. Okay? You need to add value. So coming back to the components of corporate governance, so these are the three main players. Okay, you have external governance, you have internal governance. They all have their own roles. Okay, they have their own roles. External governance have their role. Basically, if you look at the arrow, they set the framework. Okay, they set the framework. Look at this arrow here, they set the framework. So this is the internal governance. So you need to look at the flow of the arrows. Okay, the owners, the shareholders appoint the BOD appoint the management led by the CEO, and the CEO and the management report to the BOD, and then the BOD report back to the shareholders. So this is the flow down, this is the flow up. All of these are the internal governance. And the third player, very important, the third pillar of corporate governance is external auditor. So shareholders will confirm the appointment during the AGM. They will report back to the shareholders. The boards recommend the appointment. They don't make the appointment. They recommend to the shareholders. It's the shareholders who will confirm the appointment. Okay, board only recommend. That's their job. They don't appoint. Appointment confirmation be done by the shareholders. And then external auditor also has to report and be accountable to the BOD. So not only are they answerable to shareholder, they're also answerable to the board of directors. And then their job also to review and recommend. Let's say after doing the audit, they have found some weaknesses in internal controls. After doing their review, okay, audit work, they have identified some weaknesses in internal controls. Then they will make recommendation to the management, saying that these are the areas which are weak, which you need to strengthen. So this is what we mean by review and recommend. So very important for you, if you Although I'm going to put it on times, I think if you, for now, if you take picture, at least you can have a clearer picture, especially about the three pillars and the flow of the arrows. Okay, you need to not only just remember the three pillars, but also the flow of the arrows. Who is responsible for what? Who is responsible to whom? Who is responsible for what? Who is responsible to whom? Okay, so please be very, very clear. Okay, if you have any question, you can ask at the end of the class. Okay, otherwise I have to keep moving. So we have a summary of all the theories which affect corporate governance. So the ones in red are the important ones. Okay, that's why it's indicated in red. Agency theory, we have a transaction cost economics, we have stakeholder theory, stewardship theory. The others, we just need to know what it's all about. Okay, you will not really be asked to explain in detail, not at the undergraduate level. Okay, maybe if you're doing postgraduate, masters, and so on, you might need to explain some of this in greater detail. But for now, at undergrad level, okay, you're basically undergrad. So these are the four theories that you need to be familiar with. Okay, agency theory, transaction cost economics, stakeholder theory, and stewardship theory. Okay, the next question, if you look at the top of the slide, it's asking the question, why do people behave the way they do? Why do people behave the way they do? So various theories provide an understanding of how different people or groups are likely to behave in the corporate environment. So there were many theories. Okay, we just have seen the theories. Like I said, probably at our level, we just focus on the first four. Okay, stewardship theory. What does stewardship theory says? Stewardship theory says that people in power, i.e. the agent or the steward, will act for the benefit of those who have engaged them. So applying this concept in the context of company, this theory suggests that the BOD will act for the benefit of the shareholders, meaning their interests are aligned. There's no conflict. Okay, please pay attention, okay, because I don't think I'll be coming back to this again. So, there are any questions you can ask me later on. So, basically, stewardship theory says that people in power, i.e. the agent or the steward, will act for the benefit of those who have engaged them. So, there is no conflict between the two parties. So, in the case of company, we have the board of directors and we have the shareholders. So, coming back to this diagram here. Boards are appointed by the shareholders, They report back to the shareholders. Look at this diagram here. So stewardship theory basically says that these people, BOD, will act for the benefit of these people, i.e. their interests are aligned. So no clash, no conflict. This is what is explained by stewardship theory. Now the other theory is the agency theory. Agency theory takes the alternative view and assumes people have a self-interested egoist approach. So these are two different theories. So according to the agency theory, okay, these people, BOD, who are the agent of these people, the principal is this. These people is the principal, these people are the agents. Now these people, if they are not monitored, they will act in their self-interest. So who monitors them? Auditor. This is the agency theory. So agency theory says that if these people, BOD, if you don't monitor them properly, they will take advantage. They will take advantage because of this concept called information asymmetry. They know more than the shareholders. They're not on the same level playing field. So because there's a information asymmetry, I know more than these people. I take advantage of the information that I have for my benefit. So how to minimize this? So this is where these people come in, external auditors. External auditors, they're acting in the best interest of the shareholders. Usually the problem arise and crop up is when these people, instead of acting in the best interest of these people, they collude or pakat with these people. That's when you have a big problem. I just in the tutorial spoke about the Enron, the major scandal in the 2002, when the external auditor at that time was Arthur Anderson. Okay, the company is no longer around. They tutup kedai already. Shut down after this scandal, Enron scandal. At that time in 2002, they were one of the top auditing firms in the world, just like today we have the Big Four. That time Arthur Anderson was also one of the big auditing firm, but today you don't hear the name anymore because of the Enron scandal. They disappeared. Why? Why they disappeared? Because they colluded with these people. They colluded with these people to defraud these people. And that one we can't do much lah, because we rely on these people, shareholder rely on these people, but if they pakat or collude with these people, that's very difficult. Can't do much. Okay, we will be the victim of the mangsa, the shareholders. Okay, so this is the whole frame, the whole what you call the corporate governance framework. Pay attention to this slide. Pay close attention to this slide. So we have three pillars here: external governance, internal governance, and audit. Problems will arise when there is a conflict. Okay, so stewardship theory says that there's no issue. Why no issue? Because these people and these people, their interests are aligned. These people are working in the best interest of these people, so there's no issue. Their interests are aligned. Agency theory is the opposite. Agency theory says that these people, if we don't monitor them, if we don't keep a watch on them, they will take advantage. Advantage of what? The ignorance of these people, because they know more. They know more. They have greater access to information. It's called information asymmetry. Okay, so basically, the two theories are different. One says they will work together. Other says no. Boards will take advantage. So they need to be monitored. We need to keep a watch on them. Whose responsibility? It is the responsibility of the external auditor. So this is what they call the agency issue. This is referred to as the agency issue. So many corporate governance rules, regulations, and principles are based on the agency theory. So agency theory basically says that there are two parties. One is the agent. Let's just focus on this one here, because we're looking at companies. In this module, we are looking at companies. Public company, private company, doesn't matter, but we're looking at companies. So in the case of companies, who is the agent? The directors are the agent, BOD. Who are the principals? The shareholders. These people supposed to act in the best interest of these people. I use the word suppose. These people supposed to act in the best interest of these people. According to the stakeholder theory says yes, they do act. There's no conflict. There's no conflict of interest. The stakeholder theory basically says these people act in the best interest of these people. Their interests are aligned, so there's no need to monitor them. There's no need to keep a watch on them. The opposite of stakeholder theory is, stewardship theory. Stewardship theory. I said the wrong thing here. Stewardship theory says that these people act in the best interest of these people. So there's no need to really monitor them. But the other theory, the agency theory, says the opposite thing. Agency theory says the opposite thing. Okay, so be clear. Stewardship theory says these people will act in the best interest of these people, meaning their interests are aligned, so no need to keep checking, no need to monitor them. But agency theory says something different. Agency theory says that these people supposed to act in the best interest of these people, but if you don't monitor them, because of this concept called information asymmetry, they know more than the shareholders, so they will take advantage to benefit themselves. So because of that, we need to have these people here, external auditors, to keep an eye on these people. to keep an eye on these people, to make sure they act in the best interest of these people. Agency theory says that. Okay, if we don't have this third party coming in, external auditor, to make a report on these people, which we submit to the shareholder during the AGM. So these people are supposed to be independent. Looking out for the best interests of the shareholders. But when they don't do that, when they collude with the BOD, they pakat with the BOD, and this is when the problem will arise. Many scandals. You can go to just Google corporate scandal. You'll get pages and pages and pages. But the basic issue is we rely on these people, but they fail to do their job well. And the most famous case study that we will be looking at, or we have already looked at just now earlier, is the case of Enron, where the external auditor, Arthur Anderson, instead of looking out for these people, they colluded with these people. To defraud these people. So these are the issues in corporate governance. Okay, so please be clear. So we have seen stewardship theory. Stewardship theory says that both parties will act, they're synchronized, meaning there's no clash. Okay, their interests are synchronized. Agency theory says the opposite view. No, we have to watch them. Okay, so within corporation, shareholder is the principal, boards are the agents. See the writing in red. Shareholders are the principal, board are the agents. Now, boards often delegate day-to-day operational power to the CEO. The day-to-day, yes, but you cannot give to them the strategic decision-making power. Strategic decision-making power must remain with the BOD. Day-to-day operational matter, yes, CEO can take care, but not the strategic decision-making power. It must be retained by the board. This is very important for you to be understanding this part here. Okay, because all individuals will act in their own self-interest. It has been shown time and again, not just in Malaysia, not just in US, not just in UK, not just in China, not just in wherever. This is human thing, human nature. So all individuals, they are not checked, not monitored, then they will act in their own self-interest. Okay, so all of this comes under agency issues. Okay, agency issues. So agency theory identifies the agency relationship where one party, the principal, delegates work to another party, the agent. So we have two parties, principal and agent. So in the context of a company, the owners, i.e. the shareholders, are the principal, the directors are the agents. So in this regard, there are two publications which are very famous, Jensen and Meckling 1976, Pharma and Jensen 1983. They are the pioneers who developed this agency theory. So even though this paper was published in 1976, long time ago, and 1983, this is what we call seminal paper. Seminal paper meaning whatever they found, their findings are still relevant today. Even though so many years have passed, the findings and the work of these two people, Jensen and Meckling, and Pharma and Jensen, are still relevant today. So in the literature, we refer to this as seminal papers. Okay, they are seminal papers. And this is an overview of agency theory. Okay, so these are the principles. These are the agents. Okay, the principles. These people are accountable to these people. They employ these people. These people employ these people. These people, the management, they run the company. Okay, they run the company on behalf of these people. You must always follow the flow of the arrow. They run the company on behalf of these people. Okay, they don't report to them. They report to the directors. Director report to the shareholders. Okay, so shareholders appoint the BOD. The BOD will appoint the management. Management run the company on behalf of these people. The operational matters, day-to-day running of the company, yes, under the CEO. These people must not involve with the day-to-day running. They must monitor, overview, but they don't do the day-to-day running. It's not their job. Okay, they are there to monitor the governance. The directors are there to monitor the governance. So please be very, very clear about these concepts and these ideas. But these are very basic ideas in corporate governance. Okay, so this one appoint this one, appoint this one. What is their job? Run the company on behalf of these people. But they don't report to these people, they report up here. And these people report up here. Okay, these people, directors, they only accountable to the shareholders. So again, this is a very important flow chart. Okay, see the flow of the arrows. See the flow of the arrows. Disadvantages of agency theory, again, I just explained already, they don't act in the best interest of the principal, or even if they do, only partly in the best interest of the principal, and they will misuse the power because of what I explained just now as information asymmetry. So this is an agency cost. So how do we mitigate this cost? We employ external auditors. We employ external auditors to keep a watch on the agents, to make sure they do not misuse their power. So somebody needs to check them. Somebody needs to keep a watch on them. We cannot just leave it to them and say, oh, they will do their job. It doesn't work that way. Okay. And the other issue is they don't take appropriate risk to align with the risk appetite of the principal. So what do we mean by this? Sometimes the agents, they are looking short term because their remuneration is tied to the short term performance of the company. Whereas the principal, the shareholder, they have a more long term view. I invest in this company because I'm looking at the long term perspective. Over time, the company will do well, the share price will go up, I'll get my capital gain. Whereas the agent, they are looking at, because their reward, their bonus, their perks is tied to the short term performance. So they're taking a short term view, and meaning that they're taking higher risk. They're taking higher risk, but this does not align with the risk appetite of the principal, meaning these people, agent, are risk taker, this principal is risk averse. So their risks are not aligned. Okay, you have one party risk taker, the other party is risk averse. So there's no alignment. This can lead to dispute, can lead to conflict. And then another issue is the agent and the principal have different levels of information. I've already explained this now. This is known as information asymmetry. Because the agent is involved in the running of the company, managing the company, they have more information. The principal, the shareholders, they don't have much information. Sometimes they get the information from the media, but then by that time it can be quite late already. It can be quite late. Okay, so these are some of the issues, some of the issues in agency theory. Okay, so agent does not act in the full interest of the shareholder or the principal. They misuse the power. So for that, you need to monitor them. So you need to monitor them through the external auditor. Then the risk profile is different. Agent may be a risk taker. The principal may be risk averse. Okay, this agent takes short-term view. Principal takes a long-term view. Okay, and also the other aspect is they have different levels of information. Agents know more than the principals, and they misuse that. They misuse that gap for their self-benefit. That is called information asymmetry. Okay, so we can see it here in this diagram. This is conflict between these two parties, and this one is congruent. So this one is coming under agency theory. This one comes under stewardship theory. Stewardship theory says there is congruence. The agent and the principal are, their interests are in sync, synchronized, congruence. So no need to quarrel, no need to check one another. Agent acts in the best interest of the principal. This is the stewardship theory. Whereas agency theory says no, there is conflict. You need to monitor the agent. Okay, they don't act in the best interest of the principal. So this is explained in this diagram very clearly. So if you follow this route, it's called as stewardship. Okay, there's congruence, there's no conflict. If you look at this, the upper part of this chart here, this is the agency theory. They say there's conflict between the agent and the principal. So need to monitor him all the time. Okay, so we just talked about agency theory, separation of ownership and control. As countries industrialized, developed in the markets, the ownership and control became separated. So largely relevant to the US and UK. So most common form of ownership around the world is the family firm or controlling shareholders. With that, I finish my lecture. I'll go to camps and get the thing. In the meantime, if you have any questions, put it up in the chat area. If I have time, I will answer it today. Otherwise, we can discuss it in the tutorial class. Okay, I'll put it in the chat area, in the what do you call, in the chat area. So just quickly do your attendance before the screenshots. EXXJAK, capital letter EXXJAK. So can you do your attendance on cams? And once I've done that, if you have any questions, you can ask me. We've got about 5 minutes left.
Sir, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Hello,
Yeah, I know
Mr.
who is speaking. I can't see from the screen. Who is speaking?
It's Kwan Jie.
Leo. Okay, all right.
Yeah, just a question, because today we covered on corporate governance. So it's like after this topic, we can start our group assignment already, right?
Yeah, you can start the group assignment. You don't have to wait for the lectures because most of the information is widely available on the internet actually. I'm just explaining just in case you don't understand.
Yes, because the assignment is quite broad actually. It's very broad.
Yeah, you can start a little bit. If you have any specific question that you need clarification, you can just make an appointment and then we fix the time and then I can clarify for you. Okay.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, sir. That's all.
So in the meantime, don't forget to do your attendance. We are coming to the end of class. 3 minutes more.